Hello, folks. Welcome to a new episode of your Fredcast, your Frederish podcast. My name's Gary, and today we're going to talk about money. Yes, if your memory is good enough, if you've been following, if you've been listening to our podcast, you and your memory is good enough, you will remember. You're gonna tell yourself, "Hey, memory serves me well. They have already talked about money." And if you do that, you're absolutely correct because I did talk about money about a year ago. To be more specific, September the 6th, I don't remember the day, but it was September 2023. So a year and almost 3 months ago. I did talk about money, and I am going to talk about money today again. But before you leave this episode, before you stop playing it, telling yourself, "Hey, I already heard that, so I already know what this guy thinks about money," let me tell you, think again, okay? Because this episode will be a little bit different, and maybe this isn't really fit to you specifically, but there is a chance of it being 100% fit to you. Yeah, you. Yeah, I'm not talking about anyone else. I'm talking about you listening to it right now. Yeah, that's it. How do I know it's you? I don't know. I just guess. Or maybe you're destined to receive this message today. Who knows? Okay. So wait a few more minutes before I introduce the topic, so you know if you fit to the group that this episode is not for, or the other way around, the ones that must totally and completely listen to today's episode about money. So what is the main difference between today's episode and the first one in September 2023? Well, the difference is that in September 2023 episode, I was more into the main purpose of these episodes is and will always be you practicing English, so you don't have to agree or disagree with me. The idea is having you listening to spontaneous conversation. I have my script here, but I just do that spontaneously, just as it should be for a podcast. Nothing worse than a read podcast, meaning that the podcaster is literally only reading a text. Okay, that could be interesting, but it's not a podcast in my opinion. Just my opinion. Don't get me wrong, guys. If you disagree, that's fine. But going back here, the main purpose is having you learning and practicing your English with me right here. But also, I cherish having cool topics, and more than cool topics, uplifting topics that will get you learning something else, or at least have you teased enough to go after more information after the episode is over. Okay, so answering the question I've just put here, what is the difference? The difference is that the September 2023, I was more into the terms, into the generic. It was indeed a quite generic episode. I was basically talking about money. I even put that song, this one. Yeah. Okay. About money and stuff. And yeah. Okay. It was generic. Today I want to be more specific. It's not about how to get rich, which is awesome. Okay. Maybe I will talk more about it. I did talk about it in another episode now that I come to think of it. Precisely, the title was How to Get Rich, based on a Netflix episode. So I won't do an episode about it. I will just cut the road, okay, open you a shortcut and send you to Netflix instead, okay? Oh, I'm not subscribed to Netflix. Okay, then maybe I will consider if you guys push me to it. And I would gladly do that, of course. But here today is different because we're going to talk about how not to be poor. And then you go, good conclusion, Sherlock. Isn't it the very same thing? Not being poor and being rich? And the answer to that is a gigantic and sounding no. Heck no. There is a gigantic space between being rich and not being poor, okay? That's what I'm gonna talk about. But I'm getting ahead of myself, just like all the episodes. I forgot to tell you to go grab your cup of coffee. It's a chilly Friday. It was warm at the beginning of the week, but crazy enough. Crazy enough. It's Curitiba, and the weather has been changing. And I'm wearing my sweats today, just to tell you. So go grab a cup of coffee. But if you feel like a beer, tea, soda, whatever it takes for you to relax and join me in this interesting and hopefully saving conversation that will save you from being poor. Yeah, I think you got it. So today, for the first time in weeks and months, the episode won't have our co-host ChatGPT. What am I trying to say with that? What I'm actually saying is that this episode is 100% takes 100% my signature, okay, in all the parts. Of course, based on my readings, based on the videos I saw on YouTube, based on experiences I lived, people I talked to, but there's no external help. So it's my personal tip to you, okay? If you trust my word, if you trust me, well, this episode will be pretty interesting to you. If you don't, stick with me, listen to me, see if it makes sense, my words make sense, and just try to apply that, okay? You don't have to agree 100% with what I'm saying, what I'm about to say, but on the other hand, it wouldn't be interesting for you to disagree 100%, I think, because there's some interesting content here, some interesting points here. If you just say you don't agree 100%, I will understand you doing that out of a personal reasons, and that would be cool. Never put your intellectual career / history, based on the on personal feelings towards other people. In other words, don't just think, oh, this is a shoddy, a horrible idea, just because this guy who I doesn't appreciate is defending that, or vice versa. So yeah. So listen to me. That's what I'm trying to say here. That's what I'm saying, actually. All right, I just said that there's a difference between being rich and being poor, but I still haven't delved into it. So I'm going to try to do that. It would be a long conversation if I would just... I could do a whole episode about this specific topic, but let me be honest with you guys. I believe it would be rather boring if I would just stay in this episode. So I'll try to cut it short. And say that the main difference between not being poor and being rich is that when you're not poor, you're not a money slave, okay? I'll say it again. When you're not poor, you're not a money slave, okay? I'm not saying you have to be rich to stop being a money slave, okay? Of course, if you become rich, usually there must be exceptions, of course, but usually you will become a money master, okay? Not a money slave. What am I trying to say? Don't just hate me. Listen to me. Stick with me. I promise it will make sense. What is it that I mean when I say money slave? When I say money slave, I'm saying this to say that you're not the lord of your own time. In other words, say on a Tuesday morning, you don't want to do anything, okay? How many people can just, out of a random day in the calendar, say, hey, I'm not gonna do anything today, okay? Go Bruno Mars. Today, today I don't feel like doing anything. Yeah, you get it. So yeah, how many people can effectively do that, can actually do that in the world? How many people you know you know. Uh, I'm not one of these people yet. I'm on my way to be one of these people, I hope. Um, but I'm not. And you're not either, okay? And how many people you know? I know few people, quite few people who could do that, okay? I mean, I know a lot of people that could do that, but only a very few people who can do it for real, you know, and not jeopardizing, not putting at risk their lives somehow, their finances, you know. So that's it. So you understand that when you're really poor, you're a money slave, according to me, because you have to do everything based on your work. And don't get me wrong, for Christ's sake, there's nothing wrong about having a job, about working, about being responsible. It is all necessary. But truth of the matter, truth of the matter, it's when you're really poor, you don't have much choice. You have to do whatever your boss tells you to do. Okay? Hopefully he or she is right in their choice. But when they're not, you're gonna be there anyways, because you don't have word, you don't have anything. And of course, 90% of the people in this planet don't care about it. Okay? Maybe you don't care, and that's fine. If you say I don't care about working to other people, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? This episode is still for you. Okay? Because okay, you will be someone who works for someone else, which is not a problem in my opinion. Okay? Let me just repeat it. Working for other people is not a problem. But working for other people and not being able to stop working when you want or need to is a bit of a trouble, okay, in my opinion. And I'm gonna go over and talk about this in 7 specific tips, okay, that I call not to be poor, okay? Different from to be rich. I may come back with an episode only about how to become rich if you guys want to, but this one is about, don't forget, how not to be poor. How to have, despite of being a modest of resources person, you know, of modest resources, but not having to run around your own tail to pay bills, not having to take loans all the time to pay your bills, how not to be insomniac because you don't know how to pay a bill, you don't know if your electricity will be there tomorrow because it's been months you don't pay it, or even your water bill. So yeah, okay, this is the problem. Now you may be asking yourself, hey Gary, you're quite insensitive person for saying that. Come on, don't you have any respect for poor people? Do you think that they are inferior creatures and they don't deserve mercy or respect? Well, if you really think that, it's an honest question, but if you really believe that, I might have. One, you're a not honest person, which I do not want to believe. Okay, I refuse to believe you're not an honest person if you come this far in this episode specifically. Or second, my communication skills are really deficient, you know, not efficient. Because this is absolutely not the case. Most people, 95% of people I love and deal with on a daily basis fit into this category I'm about to tell you, the money slave, okay? It's not about like me talking about it as a superior creature, because truth of the matter, I'm still poor, okay? And I'm doing this because I want to put my skin in the game and tell you that I deeply believe that 10 years from now, I'll fit into the other category of people, that is the rich people. I totally believe I will be a wealthy person. I'm already kind of a wealthy person today, but not exactly. But I believe I will be a person who won't have to worry about money, who will still be working and generating jobs, of course, but I won't have to worry about my family starving or living under the bridge or anything like that. Okay. Do most people fear about it? No, but and thank God that they don't. But I do today. That's why I want to do things, and I'm doing everything I can to change it. Okay. And I honestly believe you should do it too, especially if you agree with me, especially if you identify yourself in my words. If you go like, hey, I really, really have a similar understanding of things as this Gary guy. Yeah. So if this is coming across your mind right now, I totally believe you should do that. You should totally pay attention here. So let me just, without any more further ado, get into it as quick as possible. Let's do it. The very first tip is understand you won't get anywhere if you don't sacrifice anything. Because I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not easy. Okay? Not being poor, it's not easy. Because being poor is our default mode. I used this term in previous episodes. Default, if you're not in the technology area, is when you build a machine, and there's a software program in it, like a computer, for example, or a cell phone. It comes with some configurations. Okay, it comes from the factory with some configurations. We call it default, the pattern configurations. Okay, so it is in our human quote unquote default being poor, being let me just find the perfect, the closest to perfect words here. Scarcity. Okay, scarcity, that is the idea of not having things. So for example, because we've come from the jungles, we were animals over the past millions of years. And our scientists say that, it's not me saying that, but scientists say that our body our brain is 100% similar to what it was 200,000 years ago. Okay, 200,000 years ago, we were already into agriculture. We were not so nomad. We were, more sedentary, villages coming around and things like that, plantations and everything like that. But we were still very primitive, which means our brain is technically still quite primitive, okay? And consequently, it will inherit and bring and demonstrate and put it out some actions, some instinctive actions that will help us in some moments. Yeah, say you're in the middle of the woods and you come across a tiger, your instincts will tell you to run, and that many, and chances are, if this happens, you will survive, or at least the chances are good, at least compared to the second option, that is stay around and face the tiger and try to fight it. So I'm giving a positive example of something instinctive we have. A perhaps not so positive or even negative instinct we have is the scarcity thing. We have the scarcity. Someone, say you're with your friends are walking in the woods and both of you are hungry, and then you guys find an apple in the tree, only one, okay? And say your friend pick it up and doesn't want to share it with you. You will feel at least down a little bit of punching. You feel like punching him in the face. Okay, you're probably not gonna do that, of course, because one, he's your friend. Second, you know that you're not gonna die because of that apple. And third, because you're not that hungry. Okay, but if you just eliminate these three factors, for like you're starving to death, he's not your friend, or even just add the starving to death element, perhaps things will change. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. That is not easy. I'm not here to lie to you. Okay, and you should not lie to yourself. Oh, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna. If you're a poor person, when I say poor person, is that you don't have a solid career yet, and the money you get, if you get any today, maybe there are young people here who still aren't working yet, still living with their parents, and that's fine. But For you guys, I think it would be pretty interesting to pay attention to these words, to the old man here. But I'm saying, if you're poor, if you're a poor person, it is interesting you not lie to yourself. It's paramount, it's fundamental. You don't just raise your head and go like, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna stop being poor, and it's going to be easy. It's not, okay? Why am I telling you? Why am I frustrating your motivation? That's not my point. My point here is like, don't lie to yourself. Let us operate with reality, okay? And reality is, it is challenging to stop being poor, okay? So you have to understand you have to do sacrifices. What are these sacrifices? Well, I'm not gonna mention many examples because this episode will be longer than the purpose. But one of them, for example, say you love going making barbecue with your family every weekend, okay? And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you should never do it, but perhaps you could reconsider it from every weekend you do weekend in, weekend out, okay? Because let's say you spend $100, 100 reais per barbecue, so it's about 400 monthly, okay? If you just cut it to half, it's 200, two extra 100 reais that will pop up, quote unquote, in your bank account. Or if you cut it for all, definitely it's 400, okay? I don't recommend you go to the extremes, you know? And of course, I must say that only if this money is lacking, okay? If you're making barbecues every weekend, you're spending 100 or even 1,000, and you're not lacking money at the end of the month. You're not having to call your friends out of the blue to ask for money, for loans, or the bank or whatever. You're not desperate desperate because you know if you're gonna be able to afford your house bills. Okay, if this is not the case, of course, why would I tell you to cancel the barbecue if it's something you love it? Please don't. Okay, only if everything I've just said is the opposite. Okay, then I tell you, please consider reducing or canceling temporarily, of course, because things wait until things get better. And if you follow at least some of the steps the tips I'm about to give you to leave here, things will start to get better sooner or later, okay? So this is it. I'm just mentioning one example of sacrifice. It is different. There are so many people, so many different circumstances. It's not even fair for me to just bring mine here, my example, the sacrifices I'm making and I have made and I'll probably make in the future to you. You have to figure out, okay? What are the things that are giving you pleasure but are effing you up, forgive my French, at the end of the month, financially speaking, okay? Find them out. If you don't find them out, okay, you probably you have a leg up, as they say, right? You have a good beginning. Now, tip number 2, and perhaps the most misunderstood and most important at the same time. Understand that it all comes down to organization, okay? No excuses. Guys, there is excuses for many things when it comes to fighting poverty, basically, okay? Say the household you grew up in, what you learned or didn't learn from your parents when it comes to personal finances, when it comes to money, okay? It all can be used as an excuse, but there's no excuse not to get organized, okay? Of course, there are different levels of organization, okay? But you need to understand that it all comes down to organization, okay? You have to organize yourself. Keep this in your mind. Repeat it to yourself, like, I'm gonna organize myself, and then find means to organize yourself financially. How come? How can you do that? I'm just about to tell you how. So, the main and the most effective, in my opinion, way to organize yourself financially is by using a Excel spreadsheet, okay? Spreadsheet is like the Excel thing, okay? Planilha, all right, guys? This is a new word, spreadsheet. You need to have a spreadsheet an Excel spreadsheet or any other program, whatever, any other software, you have to have a spreadsheet. Can I use a notebook? Yes, you can, but it is way more hard, way more difficult. You know, you have to find yourself, to turn the pages. When the spreadsheet, you can put it all in one place. You can pull out numbers from it. You can add formulas to it. And another important part: have a spreadsheet and learn how to use it. For Christ's sake, learn how to use it. It's not difficult. It's not something. Okay, if you're older than 70, maybe you have an excuse not to learn. But if you're younger than 70 years old, there's no excuse for you not to learn it. It's not a brainer, as I say. It's not a rocket science, okay, using the spreadsheet. Be that Microsoft, be that any spreadsheet, okay? They're different, but they pretty much go the same direction. Let me check here. Okay, questions about it. Probable questions, things you might be wondering or asking yourself. How do I choose a spreadsheet? Where can I get it? How should this spreadsheet be? What should this spreadsheet be like? And yet, the truth is, there's no specific answer to that. It will all come down to your to what fits you, to what serves you, to what works for you. Okay, what's the point of me recommending a spreadsheet that is like this, like that, and brings graphs in it, and brings number, and is aesthetically beautiful for me? And even if it is, even if you agree that this is aesthetically, that this looks good, that it's aesthetically beautiful, what's the point if you struggle to put the numbers there? If you struggle to understand what you're seeing, okay? Let me just share my personal history. When I decided I would organize myself, remember, it all comes down to organization. So when I decided I would organize myself, the biggest initial wall, the initial obstacle was how do I freaking choose a spreadsheet? Okay, I realized I had tried before, put it all in a notebook. It didn't work, of course. It didn't work. It is limited. Can you do that? Yeah, if it works for you, go for it. But most people, myself included, it won't work because we want to do things quickly. We want to do things aesthetically. We want to do things in a way we can organize. In a way we can put a limitless number of colors. And tonalities, you know? So, but anyways, I just didn't know what to choose, which spreadsheet to choose. So I decided to, one day I was like, okay, I'm gonna make one for myself. And I made one, I made it there, okay? My rent here, my expenses, my monthly expenses, divided into topics, say rent, say gasoline, say food, drinks, insurance, etc., etc., etc. I put it all there, okay? In my case, specifically divided the ins and outs, okay? The money I gain, I earn monthly, and of course, classified. This is coming from here, this is coming from there. Oh, but I just have my salary, nothing else. Okay, just put your salary there, but separate what comes in and then the expenses, rent, you know, the ones I've already mentioned. So yeah, okay, I made one for myself, and I strongly recommend you to do the same if you're struggling to find the quote-unquote perfect spreadsheet for personal finances. I'm not gonna promise, but I may, if Frederish Idiomas allow me to, a way to share a link like on the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, with a template of my spreadsheet. Okay, if you're interested, but don't just feel compelled to use it just because I love it, I made it. You know, come on. Okay, if you want to, feel free to it. And it's not a promise. I am gonna check if will be possible, but I'm gonna try. Okay, I promise I will try. So yeah, this is it. Let's go to tip number 4. So tip number 4 is never, ever, 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 forever, ever forget one thing: taxes. Okay? It's not, unfortunately, I'm not talking about the American southern state of Texas. I'm talking about the income taxes and all the taxes, the thousands of taxes you pay no matter where you live, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Of course, some countries you pay more, like Brazil. Some countries you pay more, like Sweden, but you have a good result coming from it, so you don't complain. And some countries you don't pay much, but at the end of the day, you will pay taxes no matter what. Oh, but I'm smart enough to hide it from government, blah, blah, blah. It's not worth it, okay? Your night of sleep is not worth it. Because if you're sonegating, I don't even know that's the way we say in Portuguese, probably. If you're not paying your taxes properly, I totally disencourage you to do that, okay? Because when the house of cards it falls down at once, okay? And you will regret it. You go like, oh my gosh, why didn't I just face the reality, you know? And the reality is that you will have to pay tax, okay? Income tax at least. Oh, but I'm very poor. I don't fit into the category of paying income tax. Well, I'm the biggest defender of that. Not only poor people, but lower medium classes should not pay taxes. You know, to put a perspective, to give you a perspective. Today, I believe that a household income. What is a household income? The income of the house. Say, for example, you make $2,000 monthly and your wife makes $2,000. The household income is $4,000. Okay, so the household income inferior to $10,000 should be exempt from paying taxes. Yeah, that's what I believe. I don't even know if it's feasible, if it's doable, but when I look around, I believe that this would be, oh, 10,000, wow. 10,000 in a household with 4 kids or 3 or even more, 3, 4 or even more kids. It's not that much, okay? Depending on where you live, and provided that this person has a at least reasonable finances balance control. It's not that much, okay? Maybe you know what I'm talking about if you earn 10K monthly, if you're a father with kids, you know what I'm talking about. If you live in a big city, you know even more. Sometimes it is not even enough to pay the bills, okay, to afford your life. But that's that's it. That you should never forget the income tax exists, because you should not spend this part of your money that you will have to pay for the government, okay? In Brazil, it's around 27%. If you have kids and they don't work, etc., a wife that doesn't work, etc., you can lower it a little. But you have means to know this number, okay? You go to the internet, you check, I make this this much monthly, so this much yearly. How much would I pay? You can find it on Google. If you don't, take the scorpion out of your pocket, as I said, and pay $100 for it's an investment, believe me, to someone who can do that for you. Or before that, ask a friend and try to do that for free, of course, friend or family member. But you have means to find out. So come up with this number and go like, okay, if I would have to pay this much, I will already separate that from my salary. This money is not mine, okay? I will just keep it in the savings account. People say, oh, savings account doesn't give you very much. True, but better than burning it, than spending it in barbecues, because you have to pay taxes sooner or later. If you don't pay in the due date, you will pay with interest, okay? Which leads me to my next tip. But I was just saying, and I lost the line there. I was saying that, if you're poor enough, okay, if you're poor enough to be exempt, in Brazil, if you're poor enough to be income tax exempt, you're poor enough to live. Okay, you'll be only surviving. So I ask you to reconsider if this quote unquote, in millions of quotes, comfortable, and millions of quotes, right, in thousands of quotes, comfortable position is really worth it. Because with all due respect, I don't believe it is. Okay, I think you should be aiming to get into the zone where you will have to pay tax. In my opinion, as I said, I repeat, you shouldn't. If justice existed, if you were fair enough, but you will. Okay, consider getting into the zone, because despite of paying taxes, you will be making more money. Okay, just don't forget that you will have sooner than later to pay the lion, as we say, the government. That's it. That's all. Guys, I would really like to finish the other tips, but I'm realizing this episode is getting too big. And I usually try to keep it around 20 minutes so you guys know what to expect. So you guys don't stay longer than the expected. I respect your time, of course, apart from mine. So I will split it into 2 episodes, which I will record and bring to you in the next week. Okay? So there are 3 extra tips and other comments that I will add to the next episode so we can finish this off. But pay attention and try to think about the ones I've seen in this, I've said today in this very episode, and try to start applying it, because the first 4 are, in my opinion, the most important ones, to not being poor. And that's what everyone should want, not to be poor, right? Maybe you're not poor, okay? If you're not poor and you're here just to practice English, great, okay? But of course, this message is not for you, obviously. But anyways, thank you so very much, you all. I will really wait for you in the next episode next week. And that's all. Have a lovely weekend. See you in the next one. Bye.